Hi, it's Bob Costas coming to you from the Major League Baseball Network studio 24/7 and here to pay tribute to this year's very impressive list of honorees. Let's start with one of my childhood favorites, Bobby Richardson, perennial all-star, multiple Gold Glove winner, keystone partner of my future broadcast partner, Tony Kubek. Tony at shortstop, Bobby at second base, on all those Yankee teams that seemed to win the pennant every year through the late 50s and early 60s. And when they got to the Fall Classic, Bobby was at his best. In 1960, 12 RBIs against the Pirates, 2 triples and a Grand Slam home run part of it. Still to this day, the only player ever on the losing team to be the World Series MVP. In 1962, Bobby was the runner-up to Mickey Mantle as the American League's MVP and led the league in hits that year with 209. In 1964, back in the World Series, 13 hits for the Yankees against the Cardinals. Bobby Richardson, one of my favorites. Cleon Jones. You know, when we think of the 1969 Miracle Mets, naturally, the name of Tom Seaver probably comes first. And then Jerry Koosman and the rest of that pitching staff. And Gil Hodges, the beloved manager. And maybe Ron Swoboda's diving catch in right field off that Brooks Robinson line drive. Or somebody like Ed Kranepool, who was around at the start and then was still there when futility turned into a miracle. Forgotten by many in all of this are 2 important facts. In 1969, Cleon Jones hit .340. And he was in left field when Jerry Koosman threw the last pitch of that World Series in Game 5 at Shea Stadium. Ironically, who was the hitter? Davey Johnson, who later would manage the 1986 Mets to the world title. He lifts a fly ball to left. We can still see that image of Cleon Jones making the catch and going down to one knee as if to say, miracle complete. Cleon Jones, an everlasting member of one of the most memorable teams in New York baseball history. Fast forward to another, the 1986 Mets. Boy, that team wasn't just good. They were loaded with colorful characters. Dwight Gooden and Darryl Strawberry and Keith Hernandez and Ray Knight and Davey Johnson in the dugout. And of course, Mookie Wilson, one of the most popular Mets ever. Switch hitting speedster, he could hit, he'd steal your base. But here's my primary Mookie Wilson memory. I'm in the Red Sox clubhouse in the bottom of the 10th, Game 6 of that 1986 World Series. The Red Sox are up 3-2. They scored 2 runs in the top of the 10th. The first Met hitters, first 2 of them go down, 2 out, nobody on, down by 2 runs, and I'm standing there preparing to interview Roger Clemens and Wade Boggs and Dwight Evans and all Jim Rice, all the rest of the presumably champion Red Sox. And then it all starts to unravel for Boston and come alive for the Mets. Gary Carter singles, Kevin Mitchell singles, Ray Knight comes up with a base hit, Mookie Wilson comes to the plate. And here's one thing you gotta know about Mookie. He was not up there to walk. One season in Mookie's career, he had 663 plate appearances and walked a grand total of 18 times. So this at-bat now, with Bob Stanley at the plate, which includes the wild pitch, which allows Kevin Mitchell to score the tying run, this at-bat went like a dozen pitches as all the anticipation and the tension and drama built before Mookie sent that little ground ball toward Bill Buckner, and we all know what happened next. Bernie Williams. Bernie Williams is now in the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame. There's another Hall of Fame elsewhere in the state, in Cooperstown, that might be beckoning him someday. Think about it. Career .297 hitter. In 1998, when the Yankees won 114 games and the World Championship, one of the great single-season teams of all time, he led the American League in hitting at .339. He had 22 career postseason home runs, multiple appearances in the All-Star game, multiple Gold Gloves. Bernie Williams, one of the very best of his generation. Now to my colleague, Brian Kenny. Brian is the thinking man's baseball reporter. His book, Ahead of the Curve, combines the modern analytics trend with a real appreciation of baseball as a shared experience, baseball as theater, baseball history. I like the balance that BK strikes. between the numbers and the human side of baseball. Always a pleasure to work with him. Ken Burns. Ken Burns' baseball series, which plays every offseason on the Major League Baseball Network, is part of his incredibly diverse and accomplished body of work. It was his first documentary following the Civil War, and then falls, not the Civil War itself, his Civil War documentary. Ken was not at work in the 19th century. But baseball falls in place with jazz and his series about the Vietnam War and the Roosevelts and our national parks and country music, and I'm leaving a bunch of stuff out. One of the most accomplished filmmakers in American history and a true lover of baseball. As you recall, Ken's baseball series went by innings, 9 different chapters, then he added a 10th some years later. The 7th inning of Ken Burns' baseball was called The Capital of Baseball, and it was devoted to New York baseball from the late 40s through the 1950s. Suffice it to say that from 1949 through 1956, so we're talking now about 8 baseball seasons, 49 through 56. There obviously were no preliminary playoffs then, only 2 pennant winners who went to the World Series. So 16 World Series participants. 14 of the 16 were New York teams. The Yankees 7 times, the Dodgers 5 times, and the Giants twice. Only the 1950 Phillies and the 1954 Cleveland Indians managed to break through. New York truly was the capital of baseball during that period of time, and Ken did such a wonderful job of capturing that. And then there's Perry Lee Barber. I can't say that I know Perry Lee Barber personally, although in the back of my mind, I think there is a small chance that she actually umpired at a Met fantasy camp in the mid-1980s, and somehow I got roped into being a ringer for one of the teams, and she may have called me out on strikes. I'm not kidding. She may have called me out on strikes in one of those games. She has been at it for 40-some years. You want to talk about a true baseball person? One of the greatest compliments those of us who are in and around the game can receive is when someone says, hey, you're a baseball man. Now we got to update it. You're a baseball person. That's the highest compliment. It means you understand and live and breathe the game. That's what Perry Lee Barber has done for most of her life, umpiring at almost every level except in the major leagues. And as she herself has pointed out, it's probably a little bit too late for her, but someday a woman is going to umpire in the major leagues. The NBA has had several female refs. The NFL is not quite at the same level of the NBA in terms of inclusion, but there have been some NFL referees who are female. It's only a matter of time before somebody breaks through that barrier in baseball. And when she does, that path will partially have been paved by Perry Lee Barber. All right, I'm out of breath. Congratulations to all, and enjoy the rest of the evening. Whoa, 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 just a minute. As if you haven't seen enough of me already, I now realize there are 2 additions. How could we possibly have left out my longtime friend Jay Horowitz, the longtime PR head of the New York Mets for some 4 decades, and now the head of their alumni association, one of the most distinctive and beloved figures in all of baseball, so dedicated to the franchise and to its players over all these years, he might as well be Mr. Met. In fact, at times, I think he actually is Mr. Met. And tonight, we'll also honor Jay's longtime assistant, Shannon Ford, admired and respected throughout baseball, also a true lover of the game. Shannon passed away not too long ago after a long battle with breast cancer. So we'll honor both Shannon Ford and Jay Horowitz, and with that, I promise you, you have seen the last of me as I bid you good night.